Hello everyone, this is Aegon of Astora, and welcome back to my casual playthrough of Dark Souls. This is episode 2. It is still Saturday, August 1st today, and I hope that each and every one of you out there is having a fantastic day today. I apologize for the thong you're going to be looking at while I'm one-handing my weapon for the next little bit in this episode. But we do not have the appropriate endurance to be able to fast roll while using the Zweihander, so gosh. At least I can still do jumping attacks. I have a feeling this is really going to screw me up when I go back to Bloodborne. I believe the item that's over there is a Ring of Sacrifice, so we're not going to bother getting that. Mostly because I have, on more than one occasion, died either on the jump there, or worse still, on the jump back. And there's nothing worse than that. Seem to remember you guys being... Oh, no, I didn't want to do that. Seem to remember these guys being way easier to parry than I'm making it look. Way easier. Maybe, once again, as I said in the previous episode, maybe I was never nearly as good as I imagined myself to be in retrospect. Or simply that I just am really out of practice, which is definitely true. I was hoping that that rat would drop a humanity. And another part of the reason why I found myself, I guess, craving Dark Souls 1 in the... Oh, I forgot to two-hand my weapon. In the manner that led me to, want to start this playthrough really late at night when I've not been able to sleep, is that I've been watching Epic Name Bros from the Dark playthrough of Dark Souls 1. As well as Plague of Gripes, Let's Plague Dark Souls. And just watching those two playthroughs, every time playing through and just going, oh, I remember that, or oh, I haven't done that in a long time, and just really wanting to get back into it. So that's what we're going to do. I remember how tremendously that scared me the first time I walked on that bridge. I was genuinely frightened by that. Well, I guess I should get to the bonfire so that I don't get invaded first, because I am in human form. Make sure I light that and sit down before anything else. I don't know to what extent the PvP is still active in this game, or at least on the 360 version of the game. But I am seeing a fair number of player phantoms and messages. Be wary of enemy, thank you. And this is a Miracle Resonance Sphere. Oh, but it's gone, but... Oh, I was wondering what that glowing light was that I was seeing down there. But that's actually... That is the blue Tearstone ring, I believe. Oh, and I forgot that you can't even move, and the binoculars are toggle use rather than hold to use, as they are in Dark Souls 2. Which I suppose makes sense, because Bloodborne is essentially built on the Dark Souls 1 engine, and in Bloodborne the monocular... although the monocular you can move while using, so I suppose Bloodborne in many ways is kind of a hybrid of Dark Souls. I keep forgetting to two-hand my weapon after parrying. It's sort of a hybrid of Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, but more Dark Souls 1 certainly. You just gonna keep backing up into that box? That's what I was trying to do. Are you not going to let me practice my parrying? Oh. Okay. And we're back. So it looks like, despite what I was saying, we're not going to be able to test out the... and I screwed up the riposte again. In a different way this time, at least. But we're not going to be able to gauge the level of activity, at least in this episode, because my internet is down. I did what I could to try and get it back up, but yeah. Hello, male undead merchant, I believe your name is?
Well now, you seem to have your wits about you, hmm? Then you are a welcome customer. I trade for souls. Everything's for sale.
This was another of the NPCs I mercilessly slaughtered my first time playing the game. Damn Skyrim really screwed me up for... really kept me from being able to adjust quickly to this game. Residence Key, I believe, is... We would need to buy that to free Griggs of Vinheim, but I don't think I'm going to be using any sorcery, so I'm not sure if it's even worth bothering, although, again, one of the reasons why I'm doing this playthrough is to kind of prepare for the Dark Souls Let's Talk lore, so we are going to actually grab that, because there are so many NPC quests and so many steps to all of them. At least my memory of it is that they're much more numerous than they are in Dark Souls 2 or Bloodborne. Could be remembering that wrong, but... and I think that's about all we need from him. We get the orange soapstone. It's always good to have a repair powder, but... it would be nice if we could... yeah, let's get the repair box and possibly the bottomless box too, depending on how many... oh, we just have 4 of those. This is one thing I do not miss. The inability to pop more than 1 soul at a time. So there too, you can see that Bloodborne is in many ways a mixture of Dark Souls 1 and with a number of the, I guess they're called quality of life improvements that were implemented in Dark Souls 2 were also implemented in Bloodborne, even though they were being apparently developed in parallel.
Oh, you again. I hope you've brought plenty of souls.
That I did, my friend. Well, not plenty, but... oh, shit. Yeah, we don't have nearly enough for the repair box. So we are going to buy 1 wooden arrow, simply because I don't want him to tell me to go fall off a cliff.
Oh, thank you very much. Come back soon.
He's so pleased to have made 3 souls. If you buy nothing from him, yeah, he'll tell you to go fall off a cliff. So I've gotten into the habit essentially of buying something, even if it's something that costs 3 souls, for the sole reason to simply just keep the NPCs happy. I don't know why, because obviously it's of no consequence whatsoever, but that's just something I do. Whoa, that was a crazy jump. Oh, much too soon. Yes, we did it. We did it. Successfully landed a parry. And a riposte. Excellent, okay. And there's a little ambush in here, if I recall correctly. God, having no poise is really gonna be a problem. But when you're doing 173 damage right out of the box, that can solve a lot of problems that might otherwise have existed. Something about the movement in this game, and again, maybe it's just nostalgia. This is something that I think about quite a bit, in that a lot of people talk about, you know, they compare the various Souls games to try and kind of figure out which one is the best. And while I disagree with the overall notion that things not only can be compared, but should be compared, like the whole idea behind the latest craze on, you know, YouTube and elsewhere of these top 10 lists is something that I very much I disagree with, and I think is kind of stupid. Because it can be incredibly hard, if not impossible, to compare certain things to other things. Because it more often than not depends on individual context, the extent to which you derive enjoyment out of a game. And to that end, I see a lot of people arguing that, or saying that the first Souls game you've played tends to be your favorite. And I don't know if that's true, but I think Dark Souls 1 is my favorite in terms of its well-roundedness. And I don't know if it's simply because it was my first one. It may very well be that's the case, but I try not to, you know, I try to enjoy each of the games on their own merits. So that means Dark Souls 2, I enjoy it for what it is, in that it's not the most, you know, wonderfully well-crafted world, but it is, you know, it is a game with a lot of really interesting and, you know, compared to the rest of the games in the series, robust online features. And so, yeah, it's great fun in Dark Souls 2 to do certain things in PvP and to, you know, cooperate with your friends, people you actually know, with the name engraved ring. You know, it's easy, it can be fun. It can be an enormous pain in the ass at the same time to bother with all of the, you know, soul memory garbage and keeping your soul memory within an acceptable range and whatnot. But with the Agape ring, at least that's somewhat been ameliorated. Oh, that was not good. This is not going to be good. At least that's somewhat been ameliorated with the Agape ring, even though it's somewhat of a band-aid solution. Ouch. I'm really good at parrying the Silver Knights, or at least I was. Never really been all that good at parrying Black Knights, though. Ooh. And I forgot to two-hand my weapon again. That's going to be a big problem, I think. Let's try that again. Just wanted to get him on even ground. Not sure that it's going to matter. Yeah, really no reason for us to reverse hollowing at this point. At least my posterior will look a little bit less sexual this way. But yeah, continuing with what I was saying, I enjoy Dark Souls 2 for its online features. I enjoy Bloodborne for its, you know, incredibly rich PvE experience and, you know, its second to none PvE combat. And I enjoy Dark Souls 1 because I feel like it achieves many things in, you know, many different areas that neither of the other two games. And I've never played Demon Souls, so I can't really comment on that. Although, shite. I do actually need to reverse hollowing because I do want 10 Estus, so we're going to use our last 2 humanity. So I try not to compare them, but I will say that, yeah, I think Dark Souls 1 is my favorite. For the reasons I just outlined. I think it's the only game of the three that offers a complete package in terms of its blend of PvE and PvP gameplay. I've never been particularly good at PvP. I'm decent at PvE, but I do have a lot of fun, as I discussed, I believe it was in the previous episode, invading, say, with my Soul Level 1 build and messing with people's expectations about, you know, who's an adversary and who isn't. And it's a lot of fun just staring at, you know, whoever it is that you're invading, and they see that you're clearly using, you know, very powerful gear for someone who appears to be very low level, but who at the same time, you know, some of these people, they'll attack you right away and just go after you relentlessly. And, you know, to see kind of the gears working in their head when, you know, that confusion strikes them, like, this person could kill me at any moment, and it looks like they have the capability of doing so, but why aren't they doing it? And those are the types of moments that are, you know, for example, in Bloodborne, completely lacking because of the requirement for a Bell Maiden to be in the world for someone to invade. And unfortunately, in this case, right at this moment, lacking in Dark Souls 1 because my internet is down, so. And in terms of Dark Souls 2, I don't think that I feel like the game world doesn't inspire the same magical feelings that Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne does. Oh, this is really bad. I'm just spamming R1 with this thing. Maybe I shouldn't use this Y-hander. If this is supposed to be about shaking off rust, I'm certainly not doing that by building good habits again. Do we want to go after the Black Knight again? Yeah, we do. Okay. Let's see if we can actually pull off the backstab properly this time. But yeah, I am very interested to see what's in store, and I'm surprised that, to the best of my knowledge, Sony neither Sony nor FromSoft have actually, gosh darn it, did the exact same thing that I did last time. Neither Sony nor FromSoft have released any information, as far as I'm aware, about the upcoming Bloodborne expansion. And so it seems almost as though they announced the expansion as a way of preventatively, you know, assuaging people's concerns with Bloodborne, with the, you know, lack of weapon variety. Ooh, we got a Black Knight sword. Great sword of the Black Knights who wander Lordran, used to face chaos demons. The large motion that puts the weight of the body into the attack reflects the great size of their adversaries long ago. And so it's cool that it mentions that the Black Knights who wander Lordran. Of course, in the game as it, you know, eventually came to be, they don't so much wander as they do just stand in certain spots and wait for the player to aggro them. I don't remember this. But I suppose that's a rather clever trap because, you know, a player might be fighting the Black Knight and be faced with a choice of running up or running over here. And then they'll end up running off a cliff. So that's pretty interesting. But yes, the Black Knights were originally intended to, I don't know if they were supposed to be random spawns, but they were never meant to just be kind of stationary enemies. They were meant to be ghosts, essentially, who kind of, yeah, quite literally wandered Lordran. And whenever you came across one, it was supposed to be kind of a big deal. And so a lot of the magic and the intrigue surrounding the Black Knights was certainly lost when that aspect of the gameplay was scrapped for whatever reason. But that is very much FromSoft's MO, as I've discussed in past playthroughs, that they tend to, you know, have, like myself, and that's why I can appreciate it. But yeah, I can very much relate to FromSoft in that way, because much like myself, they tend to come up with really grandiose ideas, but when it comes time to executing on those ideas, they, you know, are forced to kind of face the reality of the situation and, you know, their inability to do certain things within the scope of a given project. And so on the one hand, I think it's disappointing that there, you know, in seemingly every game they release, there are always remnants of really cool ideas that never actually made it into the final game. But at the same time, I can really understand and sympathize with that problem. But yeah, the Black Knight's Wandering Lordran is certainly one example of that. But in all the games, there are examples of things like that where, you know, you hear about what was planned for certain NPC quest lines, or, you know, the way certain enemies were supposed to interact with the world, and you go, damn, like, why didn't that make it in? That would be so cool. Wow, and I forgot about the crossbow guy. A crossbow bolt going straight through my head. Okay, it's gone now. Lots and lots of rust. But hopefully by the end of this playthrough we will have shaken off a fair bit of it. And I'll probably have to do some off-camera stuff in between the completion of this one and the start of my Dark Souls Let's Talk Lore playthrough, because I don't imagine that will follow immediately at the end of this one or at the end of the Bloodborne Let's Talk Lore series, just because I am going to need to take a break at some point from uploading, because I have lots of responsibilities that need to be taken care of, that because right now it's the middle of the summer, I can get away with slacking a little bit on certain things, but that the longer I keep from doing them, the more kind of imposing they become, so the sooner I have to get them started. I don't know if we want to fight Havel at this point, but it would be really nice to get that ring of his. I really don't want to just backstab Cheesin the whole time, though. Very good thing I healed. Whoa. Very good thing I healed. I think that was a partial parry. Yeah, we're gonna leave Havel for now. There is a crystal lizard up here, I believe. But yeah, in addition to the really good balance that is struck in Dark Souls between PvE and PvP, and I just realized that I kind of trailed off when talking about the Bloodborne expansion, but so I will get back to that. But another thing I really enjoy doing is I have several builds that are built essentially for doing co-op in specific areas. So, you know, I have my Soul Level 1 build, which I do for invasions, but that I also occasionally drop my sign in the Undead Burg for. I have I believe, Soul Level 15, Soul Level 35, Soul Level 50, all for different areas and different bosses that are common for PvP. And that's something that I tried to do in Dark Souls 2, but that I wasn't able to just simply because of how problematic soul memory became in terms of trying to be able to predict those things. And so again, just Dark Souls 1, there's so much to do, provided that there is a sufficient online population to support those things. But so much to do that can keep you coming back for more and giving it a replay value that I feel is somewhat lacking in both Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne. But I digress. I'm getting all the drops today. That's amazing. I don't know if I've ever gotten Demon Great Axe from the Taurus Demon boss. Unless I just have a terrible memory and that's a guaranteed drop, but I don't think it is. Carved from the bones of fellow demons, wielded by the lesser Taurus demons. This axe is imbued with no special power, but it can merrily beat foes to a pulp, providing you have the strength to wield it. Maybe the key there was that I stabbed him right in the genitals to finish him off. Who knows? But yeah, returning to what I was saying, Dark Souls 1 is my favorite game in the Souls series. Even though I don't like to compare them, I think that they're different experiences and context matters. But in terms of the reasons why it's important, why it's my favorite, I think it relates mostly to how well-rounded the game is, but there is something to be said for, you know, the idea that the first Souls game you play is likely to be your favorite. I don't know if that's why Dark Souls 1 is my favorite, but certainly it would seem to make sense. So I'm curious, for any of you watching who wish to comment, what was your first Souls game, and is it your favorite to this day? Not that it would be a scientific survey or anything like that, but I'm just curious to hear your thoughts about that. And this is a gentleman, of course, who needs no introduction. But we're going to ask him for one anyway, of course.
Ah, hello. You don't look hollow, far from it. I am Solaire of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. You find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time.
I find it amazing that he says, we don't look hollow, far from it, when, yeah.
Oh, aha. So I didn't scare you. I have a proposition, if you have a moment. The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined. In a land brimming with hollows, could that really be mere chance? So what do you say? Why not help one another on this lonely journey? This pleases me greatly. Well then, take this. We are amidst strange beings in a strange land. The flow of time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure. There's no telling how much longer your world and mine will remain in contact. But use this to summon one another as spirits, cross the gaps between the worlds, and engage in jolly cooperation. Of course, we are not the only ones engaged in this, but I am a warrior of the sun. Spot my summon signature easily by its brilliant aura. If you miss it, you must be blind. Oh, hello there. I will stay behind to gaze at the sun. The sun is a wondrous body, like a magnificent father. If only I could be so grossly incandescent.
So if you're familiar with any of my past playthroughs, you're likely familiar with the enormous interest I have in the extent to which the various Souls games achieve a certain how do I want to put this? A consistency between the gameplay mechanics and the story of the game. A synthesis, that's the word I was looking for. A synthesis of gameplay and... No. Oh, I didn't kick down the ladder. I did not kick down the ladder. Gosh darn it. Oh, that sucks. But yeah, that's something that interests me greatly. And one thing I've never thought about to that end is why Solaire is the one dishing out the soapstones. Where did he get them from? Because I do think that this is something that Dark Souls 1 does better than either Dark Souls 2 or Bloodborne, in that the gameplay mechanics are integrated into the story in a manner that they don't just stick out like a sore thumb, and they're not just, things aren't usually just there for gameplay reasons. There's generally no just because, that's just the way it is type of explanations that need to be made. But in Bloodborne, for example, with the resonant bells and how, cooperation and adversarial interactions work in that game, I don't feel like it's as well integrated into the story as it is in Dark Souls 1 or in Dark Souls 1. I'll just leave it at that. Dark Souls 2 is a little bit better than Bloodborne, I think, on that front. But it's still, again, not quite there in the same way that Dark Souls 1 is. Dark Souls 2 is still a very, very, very good game, and I like it a lot. I love it, in fact. And I've played hundreds upon hundreds of hours in that just as much as I have in this game. I do think Dark Souls 2 gets a bad rap, unfairly at times. So I'm certainly not going to, sit here and add to that. But it would be a mistake to refuse to acknowledge its flaws, of which there are many. But there's also many things that are great about the game as well. Bloodborne expansion. Still have not talked about that. So, yeah, it's weird that, they came out with this announcement. There's going to be an expansion to Bloodborne. They didn't use the term DLC. They specifically said expansion. And there are a number of things that I hope we get out of this apparent expansion. Not the least of which is something that I think is relatively simple, but that would also go a long way to fixing a lot of the problems with the game. And that is, I think it would be great if they could simply either drop the requirement that a bell ringing woman needs to be in your world in order for invasions to occur, or alternatively just have them as a regular spawning enemy within a given area. Because otherwise it takes, to me, it loses a lot of the tension. Just as, I feel like I've lost the tension here that I had previously in thinking, oh my gosh, I wonder if I get invaded, am I going to make a fool out of myself while recording? The answer would likely be yes, but because my internet went down, that's not going to happen in this episode at least. Oh, those iframes. Thank you, iframes. But yeah, it's very strange that they would have announced this expansion and not have followed through with any news of what in the world, like even the most basic details I would love to have of what it's going to entail. But if they added a Bell Maiden as a regular spawn in all areas and not simply as a single time spawn, and not only in the and not merely as an enemy in the nightmare areas, then that would, help to address, the issue of tension and how in Bloodborne at this moment you can kind of go through essentially the entire game without being invaded. And I think that that's a mistake, because invasions, even though, they make the game a little bit less accessible to new players, it's kind of a trial by fire type thing. And I'll never forget my first invasion, which took place in the Undead Burg, right outside the Bonfire, when... Oh, bad. That's bad. When the person who invaded me inadvertently fell off on the wooden bridge. Ouch, how did you hit me through that? And even though I did nothing to vanquish the invader, my heart was still pumping like crazy. It was such an exhilarating experience. And just the knowledge that I had vanquished an invader, whether directly or not, and survived my first invasion, it was such a just cool experience. Whoa! Are you not affected by... I guess you're not. And that would seem to make sense, because the whole idea behind when you're sitting at a bonfire is that a whole new batch of enemies is suddenly in the place of those that you just killed. But the Black Knights are not just any other enemy. They're supposed to be, you know, significant, unique enemies. So it makes a lot of sense that they're not actually affected by the bonfire. But I've never actually tried to sit at a bonfire while a Black Knight was in hot pursuit. So that's very cool. We are going to really quickly run and try to stop the Troll Hollow from shutting the gate. But it doesn't look like we're gonna make it. Oh, thank you, iframes. Once again, saving the day. So I think that's a sign that I should try to go get some sleep. I might get some sleep, go to the gym, and then come back and try and record episode 3. We'll see how I feel later on in the day. But thank you very much for joining me. I apologize once again for the incoherent nature of my commentary and the poor performance, gameplay-wise, that you just witnessed on the screen. But I hope you'll join me next time. So thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.